That's right. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the CoachCon Podcast. So today we're up to episode 24. So that is 24 weeks of doing this. Really been enjoying it, even the ones I've done on my own, but obviously had some fabulous guests on and many more to come into next year. So this is the last Monday of the year, so kind of want to give you a little bit of value, give a little bit of advice, that kind of thing, as you know I like to do on these things. So the last Monday of the year, I hope everyone had a really good Christmas and feeling positive going into 2026. So this is usually the time where people say, I make New Year's resolutions, I'm going to do this next year, I'm going to do that next year. They come out with all these different things, and it's very rarely the case they get followed through on. But can it be different this year? I know for me, I've made resolutions in the past, you know, when I've been fat and out of shape or in jobs I didn't like. And you don't always follow these things through, or at least not straight away. And I just don't want this to be another year where you say the same things, you make the same promises, and how are you going to make this year different? How is it going to be different for you? So, something that I've done numerous times in my life and certainly in fitness has been starting over. So starting again on a Monday, maybe, you know, being on with things Monday to Friday and then just making a mess of it. And what I want to talk about is actually the cost of starting over. So it's self-trust. So the more promises that you break to yourself, the lower that comes down, the lower that barrier comes down. It can sometimes be embarrassing. So if you've maybe said to a mate, oh, I'm going to be joining the gym, I'm going to lose some weight, and you keep failing, it's embarrassing. It's not good, and I've seen that. You can still be, in terms of, again, body, avoiding mirrors, avoiding photos, avoiding events, and not living up to your potential, not feeling like yourself. Each restart costs belief. So every time that you start again, it's wearing you down. It's wearing down your self-belief. And each time you quit, it makes the next start harder. So the hardest part isn't failing, it's believing in yourself again. You need to keep believing in yourself. And I want you to come away from listening to this today with a little bit more self-belief, a little bit more self-confidence, and hopefully a little bit more of an attitude that you believe in yourself to be able to do this, to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want this year. Okay? So, why the cycle keeps repeating is something that I want to talk about a little bit today as well. So sometimes change gets linked with identity, and I do very much believe that. And the reason I believe that is you are what you say you are, and you are what you do as well. So what I mean by that is, if you're someone that sticks to their alarms on the morning, like I've been doing over the last sort of 3 months or so, been very kind of locked in, even over December. If you're sticking to the targets you set yourself, be that with your nutrition, be that with trying to grow your business, whatever it might be, that all builds belief, it all builds proof of who you say you are, and I'm a very, very strong believer in that. And this can completely shift your own identity and how you see yourself, and in turn how other people see you as well. So when we have motivation, it can be great. Things get done, but there are days we simply don't have the motivation. And the one thing that I've been taught about, even this morning before coming on to make this podcast, has been that motivation isn't always there. For me at the moment, 5 a.m, dark winter mornings, not very nice. You know, you go outside, you're not getting into a warm car, it's freezing, or you're getting out, getting your steps done, whatever it might be. It's hard, it's not nice. And there's often a lot of the times for people, there's no accountability. And one of the big things that I'm so passionate about with my own coaching is keeping people accountable, is trying to have things in place of accountability. So whether that's having clients sending pictures of food, pictures of steps, you know, screen recordings of NutriCheck or whatever they're using, that is all very useful. And one thing that's really important is to remove all or nothing thinking. So suddenly trying to be the guy that gets up at 5 a.m. every morning, does 5 cardio sessions a week, 5 weight sessions a week, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be feasible. And the one thing in with that, not that I'm looking to give anyone any excuses for any of this, but you can only recover you can only train, what you can recover from. So you won't, even with every will in the world, at this moment in time, you're not going to have the capacity to recover from 5 weight sessions, 5 cardio sessions, 10,000 steps a day. We need to start a little bit smaller and having some decent goals to work from there, okay? So something I want to touch on is my story with this as well. So the one thing I try and be, and it's something that people are very kind to me about, is how honest I am, that I do show everything, what I'm doing, what I'm getting up to, my mistakes in the past, the things that I've got wrong personally. And for me, there have been slips. So I've shared a post today on Instagram. And basically that is essentially saying that over summer, I had 2 fantastic holidays. I took my foot off the gas in terms of going out, having a few beers, beer gardens, that kind of thing, social occasions, out for food, so on, living a very active social life. And for me as well, just, I wouldn't say falling out of love with training, but just kind of getting a little bit sick. So I had a change up in terms of what I was doing in terms of sessions and wanting to get back into things. And the point is that even as a fitness professional, coach, all that kind of thing, which is what I've been for like the last coming up 5 years, there are slips, there are times where things go wrong. And for me, when lockdown happened, that was a big time where I suffered very badly with my mental health. Obviously, we don't need to go into the argument of why gyms were closed and maybe shouldn't have been closed and all that kind of thing. But the point is, that was a time where I did use some excuses. And because the gyms were shut, I let myself get out of shape, so on. And a lot of the time as well, there have been distractions in terms of trying to grow my business. So for those of you that don't know or never tried, maybe trying to be an entrepreneur, have your own business, whatever you want to call it, is difficult. The challenges, you might get people not paying you on time, might get challenging clients, so on. And it is difficult. And when you're trying to grow a business, no matter what it is, whether it's a coaching business or, I don't know, fences, joinery work, whatever it is, there's challenges to be done. And there's distractions with that, trying to get your name out there, trying to build your profile. In my case, trying to build up your Instagram, build up your proof, so on. And it's hard, and there are distractions along the way, and it's very easy to fall off. There's been times with injury as well. So for those of you that don't know, last year I'd suffered quite a bad stress fracture and continued with my events that I had planned. So I really should have not done the 15-mile trail run that I did, that event at Raby Castle. I probably shouldn't have done the Great North Run last year. Even this year, there was still some problems creeping up from about May time. I was in a lot of discomfort for the Leeds half marathon. Obviously, 2 weeks prior to that, I had my ambulance fiasco with the Manchester Marathon, which, as I say, wasn't very nice, but long story short, I ended up getting my first ever DNF, did not finish, and ended up in an ambulance, which wasn't very nice, and but it was just one of those things. But again, I did the Great North Run this year, still had a few niggles. Fortunately, I got a lot of help on the physio front and was able to get sorted out. But oftentimes I have used being busy as a bit of a cover as well, to not prioritise myself. And in with that as well, and I'm sure a few of you can probably relate to this, I've used the thing of putting other people ahead of me, ahead of my needs and what I need to get done. For example, in times where I was doing a lot more PT, obviously I've took a step back from that now, but there's times where if a client wanted a certain time, even if I was going to train at that time, I'd put them in. I'd be prioritising business over sort of my own training and goals and so on. But nothing changes until you believe in yourself and believe that you can change and get things done. So moving into the shift that ends this cycle. So even with my own things that I've done, it's very important that you understand perfection isn't required. For me, I'm in more or less a perfect routine at the moment in terms of when I train, how I fit things in around what I'm doing. Fun, family and fitness gets all planned in first. And I've gotten very, very disciplined in terms of planning my weeks, planning my days, planning sessions, using my logbook in sessions. And the thing is, it's the consistency that we've talked about a lot before, but it's very, very important, and just having fitness as just a baseline behaviour. So that's a lot. I don't want to say it's what I tie my self-worth to or anything like that, but if I don't train, if I'm not sort of hitting my targets in terms of steps, nutrition, so on, then I'm just not in a good place, and I don't feel happy. You know, I need to get that training done. I need to be prepping my meals, being organised, and that then crosses over into my other days, my life, and what I've got going on. So one thing that I think is worth trying to introduce is never quitting fully again. So never sort of come away completely from the gym or from any good behaviours that you're going to adapt this January. Yes, we might miss days, things happen. You know, I work with business owners that are a lot busier than me and have jobs where they have to work away. You know, they might get called out on emergencies, that kind of thing. So in that instance, days do get missed. Some boxes don't get ticked on certain days. That is fine. Life does happen. At the end of the day, no one listening to this is likely to be a full-time bodybuilder or professional athlete full-time, you know. It just doesn't work like that. But as long as we're not missing weeks and months at a time, the odd day in the grand scheme of things is not going to cost you that much. But it's important we're not missing, you know, one day a week all the time. The odd one, maybe a couple a month at the very most, but this cannot be a regular thing. Try and adjust things where you can. So maybe there's a day where you're not able to do the extra cardio that you need to get done, whatever, but maybe you can adjust something later in the day where you maybe get out for a longer walk, something like that, or you maybe pull down your calories a little bit that day. You make adjustments, you're not abandoning the plans altogether. The goal with all this is not to be perfect, and the promise I'm making to myself, what I've been determined to follow through on the last few months, is just not disappearing again, not let myself go, having off periods, that kind of thing. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to be announcing very soon in January. So after I come back from Tenerife, the episode on the 19th of January, I'm going to be announcing a couple of things on here that I'm going to be doing, and the challenges and the standards that I've got locked in for the next 6 months from that point. Framework, something that I want to touch on. This is to give you a little bit of structure. So make some promises to yourself. Stick to, for example, a set get-up time in the morning and a set bedtime, if you like. So a time that the telly goes off on a night and a time where you've got your alarm set for in the morning that you're going to adhere to. And don't make this impossible. If you can't comfortably be going to bed at 8:30 and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, then guess what? Don't give yourself those standards. Can you have something where you may be going to bed at 10, getting up at 6, something like that, where you're able to get something done before you go to your 9 to 5. You've got a full 3 hours there, minus travel time, shower, breakfast should be made the night before. You've at least got a couple of hours in there to be able to get something done, to be productive, to be useful before you go into, you know, work, for example. Can you get a target set for steps? So I had a guy sign up over Christmas, and all I've set for him initially, along with a couple of the bits, but in terms of steps, it's just to get to 4,000 steps a day, because at the minute he's doing nothing. But 4,000, that half hour or so of walking he's going to be doing, other than just being in the house that he's doing at the moment, is going to make a world of difference. I don't need to be putting him on 10,000, 15, so on. It's no point playing with that metric. It's just to get him a bit more active, get him up and out. Something as well, breakfast. Can we have protein first in the day? Something like some eggs, something like even a shake and some oatmeal, something like that. Something that's going to be fueling us, keeping us full, not causing us cravings later in the day. Have a rule in place. For me, it's to never miss 2 weeks in a row. So if I'm, say, on holidays, something like that, I'll at least be doing a little bit of training when I'm out there, something like that. That is, for example, if I'm on a longer break, something like a 2-week holiday, something like that. But also in with this as well comes an identity shift. So realising that you are someone who trains, you're someone that wants to get in shape, you're someone that wants to work on themselves. This isn't the thing of, you know, being in front of the mirror trying to psych yourself up or any of that crap. It's very much the thing of just trying to adopt the identity. So for me at the moment, I'm someone that trains, someone that wants to be in good shape, wants to keep getting in better shape, someone that eats healthy. Those identity things impact my life in a positive way. The more positive I am, the better I feel in myself in terms of my mental health. So on, the better I am as an individual. So this works massively psychologically, because this is going to cross over, like I mentioned, into other parts of your life. You're going to be showing up more. You're going to be more on it in terms of work, your drive. You're going to almost get some motivation coming into things because you're going to be feeling better in yourself, because you're looking after yourself. If we can look after our body more, the brain follows, vice versa. You know, if we're getting downtime, if we're getting rest, if we're getting sleep, that's going to also help us physically as well. Okay, it's simple things that win. You know, I'm not someone that comes on here or on Instagram or YouTube, whatever, coming out with a load of science, load of nonsense, trying to break things down. At the end of the day, I'm not that clever, but I don't need to be. The thing is, simple stuff wins. Keeping stuff simple, basic. It's the same with the training. You know, there's a lot of people coming out sticking day handles onto pec decks and super slow lat pull downs with day handles and all this kind of stuff, you know, cuff this and whatever, trying to get the optimal angle and rubbish. Just get some weight on a bar and shift it with some decent form, stuff like that. You know, get on the tried and true exercises that have worked for years. We don't need to be overcomplicating things. It's very much the same with diet. Keep carbs around training, have protein with every meal. In terms of lifestyle, hit X amount of steps a day, maybe 10,000 steps, so on. Get 8 hours of sleep at night. It's the simple stuff. We don't need all these hacks, all these different things that are coming out all the time and trying to find the optimal this and the best thing that. It's just not required. It's not what's going to win long term, because we can get bored with things like that. We can get bored, and it wears you out mentally trying to find, you know, the extra 1% here and there that in the grand scheme of things we don't need. So this has been, for once, a pretty short episode, I think. Coming up to about the 20-minute mark. But I really wanted today to just be a little bit of motivation, a little bit of explaining my journey in the past. So there's been times, even before becoming a PT, where I'd be like, great, gym, January, sort things out, and maybe have a good week. And then I'd just start slacking a bit. I maybe promise myself to do X amount of cardio, and I'd start dropping off, you know. And it's the simple things that are going to work. Even if we set something out where we're going to go to the gym twice a week, that's going to be better than nothing. Twice a week, anyone can stick to that. That is very, very easy. It doesn't matter how busy you are. You can at least do that as a start. Then you can build up sessions. Then you can build in further habits from there. So let this be a little bit of a line in the sand. It's the last Monday of the year. Just want this to be a little bit of motivation. If you need a little bit of a hand with any of this stuff, then as always, reach out to me on Instagram at Ashton Online Coaching. I'm always available on there. And at the end of the day, it's not to even try and sell you coaching. I like to help people. I like to actually just see people move forward. The thing is, on a personal note, I very much try and be the coach that I would have liked if I hadn't directly gone to one straight away. I've had some fantastic coaches, but I always try and model myself on, you know, my first coaches, but like I say, someone that I'd have wanted straight away. So someone that's actually been through the journey that I have. So I've not, as I say, for the coaches I've worked with, I've never worked with one that has gone through the journey I have. They've either been in super condition or super fit, or they've not gone from losing over the 60 pounds that I've done, doing the ultra marathon, having a lot of social proof out there in terms of obviously podcast results, so on. It's very much trying to be just to offer a little bit of advice. There's lots of conversations I have in the DMs every day with people replying to stories, my journey, what I'm doing, what I'm on with. And at the end of the day, I do just like helping people. That's a little bit of a side note, but I'm going to leave this one there. So as always, thank you for listening. Please hit subscribe, give it a rate on Spotify. If you happen to be listening on there, obviously give it the 5 stars. But anyway, have a fantastic 2026, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. God bless. Take care.